Hey there, my fellow author. I'm Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, an old soul kind of writer living my dream as a full-time author and authorpreneur. But I didn't start out living a confident, creative lifestyle. I struggled with the fears and the mental and emotional barriers that so often plague writers at all stages of their author career. But the truth is that with the right knowledge, tools, and training, you can overcome those barriers. I'm here to teach you how I've developed a lifestyle that's allowed me to publish 19 books and counting. Each week, as you tune into the Confident Fiction Author podcast, you'll get clarity on the steps you need to take to advance your writing career. Whether it's developing your ideal writing routine, tackling new skills like dictating your fiction, or overcoming the obstacles life throws your way, this podcast will help you live a more confident, creative lifestyle. Let's get started. Hey there, my friend, and welcome to this week's episode of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Elizabeth Sawyer, and today I am going to talk about 4 ways you can borrow a skilled author's confidence. I'm going to start off today with a story about the time I flew an airplane. Yes, you heard right. Sarah, who is scared of heights and is kind of an adventurer, but not a super adventurer, was actually in control, or at least in semi-control, of an airplane for a few minutes. So it started several years ago. I can't even say how long this has been on my bucket list or just in the back of my mind, but I've always wanted to go up in a small plane, which again, super strange for me because I'm not a big fan of commercial flying. I do it because, it gets me there faster, but I'm not a big fan of flying in general, and I'm certainly not a big fan of heights. So it's really strange that I had this desire to go up in a small plane, but I did. And so several years ago, a friend of ours, Seth, I knew he had a small plane and was a great pilot. And so one day when he casually offered to take me up, I immediately jumped on it. I was like, yeah, let's do it. When can we do it tomorrow? So within a week or so, he took me up in his small plane. It's an RV-8, which most of us, when we think of a small plane, we think of like a Cessna. You're sitting side by side in this tiny little plane, and this is certainly a tiny little plane, but it's configured a bit differently where the pilot's in the front and the passenger is in the back, and you barely have enough room on each side for your elbows. But the incredible thing about it is the cockpit, it's just this bubble, so you're getting this incredible view of the sky and just all around you. It is a fantastic design, super fun. So he took me up in that, and we flew over my hometown and some of our local lakes, and it was a lot of fun. And then he did something I wasn't expecting. He said, "Would you like to fly for a minute?" And I was like, no, immediately, no, I don't want to die today. And I had zero confidence in my ability to control the stick, which was right there, in between my legs. The way this design is, you're sitting there and it's controlled by a stick. You have that in the pilot and you have that for the passenger in the back. And I was like, no way I'm touching that. I will just nosedive and will die. So after we landed and I thought about the experience, it was so fun. I got lots of videos and pictures. I had a little regret. Right? I was like, I should have, that was a golden opportunity to be able to say, I flew a plane. Like, why didn't I do that? And I so enjoyed my first experience in a small plane. I was like, this is something I want to do again sometime and maybe even take flying lessons. Like, how cool would that be? But I put it aside for several years and went on with other hobbies and projects. But the topic of flying a plane and small planes came up in a podcast that I was listening to, a business podcast, where the man was talking about getting his pilot's license and all of that. And it just brought that desire back up in me really strong. So I texted my friend and was like, hey, can I get a do-over? Can I get a second chance to actually fly the plane like you'd offered before? And I chickened out because of my lack of confidence. And he was like, yeah, sure. So within a couple of weeks, when the weather cleared, we scheduled a time and went back up in the sky. And once we were established at our altitude and all, I asked him a couple of things because I had gone on there and watched some YouTube videos about flying. I didn't want to just be totally ignorant and totally like, I don't know what to do. Like, this is just really scary. And so I asked if I could just shadow him on the control stick. So he was like, yeah, just take your two fingers and your thumb and just lightly put it on the stick and just feel what it's like and how little movement it takes to actually direct the plane. So I did that. And then after a while, he was like, okay, are you ready? And I was like, I don't know, but I'm going to try. And he was just step by step giving me instructions. And so I took a hold of the stick lightly still and didn't grip it, not jerking it around. And he's like, okay, you have control of the plane. And of course, he was controlling the speed and all of that, but I was still controlling left, right, altitude, banking, all of that. And so just second by second, minute by minute, he was giving me instructions on how to fly the plane and how to keep it level with the horizon and to watch the controls, watch the altitude, which I had a little bit of difficulty seeing from the back seat. So he had to kind of lean over a little bit for me to see the digital screen. And it was just a super amazing experience. It was the golden hour, so the sun wasn't quite setting, but it was just beautiful. And so we started flying along Interstate 20, which is the highway that we use so often on the ground. So it was really incredible to just fly over that. And we flew out over me and my mom. We have 5 acres out in another small town not far from us. So we got to fly over that and just fly over some other spots that I go to often, including the pickleball court where I play each week. So it was just a really fun experience. And we kind of took turns. He would take back control and do some other like banking around our property so I could take pictures. And then I did a little more flying. And then I was like, okay, that's all the adrenaline I have for this trip. It was super amazing. And it stayed with me for so long, right? So like that night, I could still feel the movement of the plane. And it was almost like after riding a horse, and you still have that feeling in your body. I love riding horses as well. So it was just that feeling in my body of still experiencing being in the plane. Later, I got to thinking about how I was able to actually fly a plane. Like, how did that happen? Because I had no confidence in my ability to do something like that. And what I realized was it wasn't my confidence that enabled me to do it. It was borrowing my friend Seth's confidence that made it possible for me to fly a plane. So he is a very confident pilot, years of experience. And so just the fact that he was giving me second by second instruction, and he, of course, could take it over at any time if there was an issue. So, and just the fact that he had the confidence that, yeah, you can fly this plane. So that's what made that possible. And so here on the podcast, we call it the Confident Fiction Author. And you may be like me whenever I was going to attempt to fly the plane, or when he asked, do you want to fly the plane? And I declined it at that time because I didn't have confidence. And that may be something you're facing in your fiction writing journey. You may not have confidence in writing your first novel or in publishing your first novel, or if you've written and published 150 novels, but you're just feeling a lack of confidence in being able to do it again, or in being able to do a new skill like dictating your fiction. And overall, you're feeling that lack of confidence in your fiction author life. And what I want to share with you today is how you can borrow someone else's confidence in those areas of your fiction writing life, because the fact is you don't need to go it alone on this author journey. So let's get into the 4 ways you can borrow confidence from skilled authors. The first way you can borrow confidence from skilled authors is through craft books. This is where I started on my fiction writing journey, was reading magazines and craft books of experienced authors, and something I continue to do to this day. There is always more to learn about the craft of fiction writing, always ways of improving. And honestly, we as writers, we know the value of books, but sometimes we forget or we don't fully utilize craft books in our writing life. And one of the things for me is I heard someone say that, if you can't afford to pay a mentor or a coach, books can be your coach. And I was like, yes, that is so true. You can get these books, get these writing craft books, and they will be your coach. They will be your mentor. And like I said, as writers, we look at the price of books and we're like, oh, having to spend, $20, $30, $50, $100, a couple of $100 on writing craft books. But when you think about what it costs to go get a college education or to hire a mentor or a coach, books are just such a low entry level way to get into borrowing another author's confidence. So the authors who wrote these books, if you're getting the right books, they should be well experienced and well versed in the topic that they're teaching and that they're writing about. And so to take their 20, 30, 50 years of wisdom and experience in writing fiction and being able to get that for $15 or $20, that's really incredible. And it just makes borrowing confidence from another skilled author so accessible and so doable for all of us. Because even my local library, which I live in a small town, we don't even have a town library, we have a county library. So at our county library, it has some great fiction craft books, and I've read all of those that were there. So even if that investment of $15 or $20 into a craft books, or hundreds of dollars into craft books, they are just so accessible through your library or even your library app as an ebook or an audiobook. And so that's the place, especially if you're just starting out as a fiction author, really look at those craft books as being able to borrow a skilled, probably confident fiction author who can teach you the things that they've learned along the years in the books that they've written. The second way that you can borrow confidence from a skilled author is writing mentors. And so I know I mentioned about paid mentors or paid coaches, and that is absolutely worth it, especially in terms of an editor or say an agent who is, paid out of your royalties. So what I'm thinking about with this, though, with a writing mentor, especially in the author community, I have found so many generous souls who are willing to share their knowledge and to come in and just give you feedback on your stories or on career decisions, pricing, just all of the things that go into our writing careers. And this is something, so I said craft books was the first thing. Writing mentors was very close to the second thing that I got going with my author career. And I did it through a challenge program on a website called faithwriters.com, which is still going. It's not the community that it used to be in terms of, I just haven't been involved in a long time. So I miss the old friends and the forums that we had back in the day. And I started before Facebook was really a thing. And so when Facebook and social media really started exploding on the scene, a lot of people migrated over to there and into Facebook groups and all. So the forums, if you remember back in the day, we have the old forums model, which they're still some active and they've kind of moved into different forms. But it was a great community where we had a weekly writing challenge and a topic was posted every week. And you had 1 week to come up with an idea that hopefully wasn't like the other 200 writers who were writing on the same topic. So you had to come up with an idea, write, edit, and submit it. And it had to be 750 words or less. Like that was a hard cutoff, and boy, was that challenging at times, most of the time, really. So I did that for 16 months straight. I only missed like 2 or 3 weeks in there for 16 months straight. So it really did a lot to develop my fiction writing craft and discipline. But the main thing were the mentors who were involved in that community. So there were several experienced writers, even published authors, who were in there reading the challenge entries. We would all go in there and read the challenge entries and leave what we called gold boxes. And you could specify if you wanted red ink, quote, red ink on there, which meant you wanted critique. And I would always put that on there. I would say, yes, red ink this and give me feedback, help me become better. And so I had so many older, mature authors who would come and comment on my stories and uplift me, tell me where my writing voice was strong or how my dialogue was coming through. And then they would give me some kind of critique, something that would help me, and I would immediately apply that to the story that I was working on for the next week. So it was a fantastic opportunity to get feedback from writing mentors and immediately apply it. So let me say that with writing mentors. When you do have someone who is speaking into your life, you are borrowing the confidence of another fiction author because they have confidence in your ability to create stories, your abilities as an author to improve and to hone your craft. When you have someone like that or several someones, do apply what they teach. This may change as you grow and mature and find your own voice as an author, but if someone is taking the time to pour into you and give you suggestions, give you feedback, essentially coach you in what you're doing, do take and apply those things to your author life. Even if you decide later on it really didn't become a part of your style or the way that you wanted to tell stories, just put that effort in, because you will learn, and you will also show that respect and appreciation to your writing mentor that you did do the work that they gave you to do and you did take their advice to heart. So there's an element of humility here as well. And I talked about that, there's a difference between, humility and confidence, and the kind of confidence that I'm talking about here on the Confident Fiction Author. Humility is a part of that. And it's that willingness to learn, which, since you're listening to this podcast, I know you have a willingness to learn. And so that's really important when you are engaging with writing mentors who are helping guide you along the way and to make you a better author. And that's what I loved, not only with that group, but for several years, I just had these mature authors who poured into me and poured their confidence into me. They're like, you've got this. And just being able to borrow their confidence and lean on that helped me to grow into my own confidence in writing. All right, the third way that you can borrow confidence from skilled authors is through digital courses. I love the digital courses framework, model, whatever you want to call it, because it really brings education out from, say, academia and more formal and pricier education, and really makes it accessible for the average author. So say there's a course for $350 or $500, and that may sound like a chunk of change, but when you look at what it would cost you to go to a community college and take a course, or to get your MFA, your Master of Fine Arts degree, or go get a Bachelor Creative Writing degree, and what that costs you, not only in money, but time and travel and all of the things that are involved with getting a degree, suddenly a $300 or $500 course sounds pretty inexpensive, or even a program that's priced at $1,500 or $3,000 that you're able to have access to a real writer. That's another thing I love about the digital courses model, is a lot of them are taught by people who have actually done the thing. And that's something that I saw a lot, especially in academia, not to knock academia here, but a lot of the professors that I saw and stories that I heard from my fellow authors who went to take creative writing classes or to get their degree in creative writing, they were learning from professors who were not writers. They had never published anything beyond some literary journals. It was not their career in terms of being a career fiction author. So what they were teaching wasn't necessarily real world writing or real world fiction author career. And with digital courses, what I found, not in every case, but what I have found is a lot of these programs are taught by authors who are actually pursuing it as a career, or they've had success and now they're turning around and they're teaching what they've learned through digital courses and programs. Another amazing aspect of this is they are teaching these courses because they have the confidence that if you follow their guidance, you'll be able to master that skill that they're teaching. So they aren't just teaching a course, they're teaching it with the confidence and the belief that if you go through their course and you follow the steps, you will now be able to do that skill that they are teaching, whether it's how to craft a compelling scene, or how to market your genre fiction, or how to dictate your novel, which is what I teach. And so I'm able to say that because that's how I feel. I feel if you go through my digital courses, that you will be able to master that skill that I'm teaching and apply it to your writing life. So yes, I am a big fan of digital courses. I think they are just a very powerful and accessible way that you can borrow confidence from skilled authors. Number 4, and the final way that I'm going to share for you to borrow confidence from skilled authors, is through coaching. So I mentioned at the the first one about craft books and how they can really be your coach and your mentor when you're starting out, there comes a time where having one-on-one coaching or being in a group coaching with a confident author or with someone who is well-versed in what they're teaching is just super valuable. It's also something that you may want to jump straight into and really shorten the learning curve. You're still going to want to read craft books and do critique groups, do all the things to build up your skills as a fiction author. But if you are newer to fiction writing, don't feel like you have to take the long road and take years to learn all of these things. By getting in there one-on-one with a coach or in a group coaching program can really help those light bulb moments happen a lot faster, especially if you have someone who is getting to know you, getting to know where you're at, and they can direct you straight to those resources that might have taken you months or even years to stumble across by yourself. And there is just so much value in sitting down either digitally or in person with someone who is where you want to go, and they're having a conversation with you. They're asking you questions, you're asking them questions, and you are being able to harness the power of all of their knowledge crafted specifically for you and where you're at. That is just invaluable. And you can get similar with a group coaching program. The advantage with group coaching is you get to hear what other people are going through and get to hear the answers that the coach or the mentor is giving them. And often what I have found in my group coaching that I offer during my boot camp is that people who originally had a question, after they hear other people, is what I hear is authors are like, I didn't realize that was actually my problem. You know, what Melinda said or what Keith was going through. And I didn't realize that's what's hanging me up. And the answer that you gave solved my problem I didn't even realize was holding me back from being able to dictate my fiction. And so there's super value of being in a group and hearing what everyone else is going through, what they're struggling with, and then hearing the solutions and then hearing their success, which is always exciting for me as a coach to come back into the next session and just hear about the breakthroughs that not only the author that I gave the specific advice to, but other authors who also applied that advice and experienced breakthrough. So coaching, whether it's one-on-one with a skilled author or it's in a group, is another way that you can borrow their confidence really at the top level. Like, this is where you are going to get someone looking right at you, pretty much on Zoom, but looking right at you and saying, I believe in you. I believe that if you take these steps, you will be able to do XYZ. Like I said, for me, I look at authors and I give them that input. I say, I hear you. I hear what you're struggling with. Do this, 1, 2, 3, XYZ. And I believe that if you stick with it, you will be able to dictate your fiction. And so that is my confidence that other authors are able to borrow from me while they're on their journey to mastering dictation. To recap here, the 4 ways you can borrow confidence from skilled authors. We talked about craft books and how you can get those by purchasing them outright, which of course supports the authors. You can also borrow them from your library, which supports them on the back end, and it is helpful. So craft books, borrowing all of these years of experience. Someone has sat down, taken the time to articulate it, and they're passing that on to you through a book. You can also get this through writing mentors who are in a more casual setting, say through a writing challenge, through a critique group, some way that authors are pouring into you and giving you specific advice on your writing, and they have that confidence. They would not be taking that time to give you input if they didn't have confidence that you will be able to improve as a writer. So borrow that confidence, lean into it, and do take their advice and apply it. The third way that we talked about is digital courses and really being able to learn from actual writers who have taken the time, again, to put together a course and are feeling so confident in you that if you will follow the steps that they lay out in their course, you will be able to do the skill that they're teaching. And lastly, number 4 is coaching, whether that's in person, one-on-one in Zoom, or in a group coaching program, being able to have direct access to someone who is well-versed and skilled in what they're teaching. And again, you're getting all of their years of experience and confidence poured into you as an author. And that's where you can really experience the value of having someone believe that you can do it. I'm going to wrap up here with saying I have confidence in you being able to master dictation. So if that's been on your list as a skill that you want to tackle and you want to be able to dictate your fiction and take advantage of all the benefits, including writing faster and not being tied to your desk, being able to get up and move around, and time management so you're able to dictate while you're doing dishes or out feeding your chickens, all the things that I've done with dictation, I believe that you can master dictation and really take advantage of all of those benefits. That said, I recognize that dictation may feel like a scary thing, but you can borrow my courage and my confidence during my upcoming dictation bootcamp for authors. It kicks off on April the 29th, 2025, and it is now officially open for enrollment. I'm so excited to be able to say that. I've had the wait list going, and I now get to hit live on that and say that you can go and enroll in the Dictation Bootcamp right now. So that's over at fictioncourses.com/Dictation Bootcamp. It's just $37, and it's 3 days of live training from me on dictation, and it is designed to help you take your first steps in dictating your fiction. So it's just about an hour commitment a day. We do a 30 to 45 minute training session, and then I send you off with an assignment. So this is where I said about really taking the advice and following through and implementing what you're being taught by your writing mentor or your coach. So you will take your assignment and complete that hopefully by the next day before the next session kicks off. And so we will have 3 days of that, of the training and assignments. We'll also have a pre-party kickoff, which is what is on April 29th. So that's orientation time and making sure our time zones are aligned, which I have authors from around the world who have come into my boot camps. I've had over 800 authors in my boot camps. So I'm really excited to see you in my next one. Even if you've been to a boot camp before, if you have, you know how fun and exciting they can be, and just encouraging and inspiring to see all of your fellow authors gathering together and taking those first steps to being able to dictate their fiction. And I've had so many authors who just go from doubting to confident in their ability to dictate their fiction. There is a lot to learn with dictating fiction. It's not quite as simple as just hitting your dictate function or your speech-to-text option on your phone or your computer and words start magically appearing on the page. They do once you have trained yourself to dictate your fiction. And that's what I want to encourage you to do, because the last thing I want to do is send you off inspired about dictating fiction and you give it a try, crash against the rocks, your brain freezes up and you're like, oh, I'm just not wired that way. I can't dictate my fiction. It's great. It works for other people, but my brain just doesn't work that way. I was that whenever I started with dictating my fiction, and I'm so grateful I pushed through that. But I so wish I'd had someone alongside me who was confident in dictating their fiction, and I could borrow that confidence to learn it myself. So it took me years to finally overcome all of those hurdles, and I want to shorten that learning curve for you. What I have found with dictation, it's great to read books about it or to hear someone talk about it on a podcast, but really putting all of the pieces together with someone that you can ask them questions and just being able to really work through it and work through your specific issues, it can take a group for that. It can take someone just giving you specific advice on what you need with your dictation. And while I'm not able to do that with everyone in the boot camp, because like I said, I can have hundreds of authors in any given boot camp, I do have a VIP option, and that's the group coaching. So I talked about being able to have one-on-one or group coaching. I don't offer one-on-one coaching at this time, but I do offer the group coaching through the VIP during the boot camp. So if you're interested in being able to take advantage of borrowing my confidence and being able to share your specific struggles and what you're going through with dictation, do look at that VIP option when you enroll in the Dictation Bootcamp. Again, you can do that over at fictioncourses.com/dictation bootcamp. There's an enroll now button. You click that, it takes you over to the checkout page, and go down and you'll be able to enroll in the boot camp, and then it will give you that VIP coaching option. The Dictation Bootcamp does kick off on April the 29th, 2025. So go ahead and head over to fictioncourses.com/dictation bootcamp, and I will see you on April the 29th. That's it for this week, my friend. I will see you in next week's episode of the Confident Fiction Author Podcast.